We are glad to see you again on our channel. Today we have a recap of the movie Life, released in 2017. The situation on the ISS is out of control. Will an extraterrestrial beings be able to make it to Earth? I didn't expect this ending to this movie. Sit back and enjoy the movie. The film focuses on a group of experienced astronauts working on the International Space Station, ISS. They are preparing to intercept a module that is approaching the station with unique samples of rocks mined on Mars. With the help of a manual manipulator, Rory Adams manages to capture the module before it approaches the station. The study of the specimens confirms that the rover that made the most incredible discoveries has produced truly valuable material. Researchers are able to discover a creature they believe could be a real breakthrough in the exploration of other planets. Miranda North, the doctor responsible for quarantine on this mission, has been aboard the ISS for 10 weeks. Today, the capsule Pilgrim with valuable samples of Martian soil completes its 8-month return from Mars. Preparing to intercept the data samples was the mission's primary objective. However, the capsule is damaged, so the orbit of the station will have to be substantially corrected. Rory Adams will go into outer space to make visual contact with the capsule and capture it. This specimen has been waiting a long time, and Rory Adams is putting himself at great risk to get it. Rory Adams is preparing to go into space. Colleagues give him various tips. The man goes into space. The trajectory of the capsule changes. Colleagues tell Rory not to miss. The capsule flies close to Rory. A blow occurs. Rory disappears for a moment and then begins to rejoice and says that the capsule is intercepted. Ekaterina Golovkina reports that they have the capsule and samples from Mars intact. The astronauts are looking at the sample. They say it has something about a nucleus, a cytoplasm, a thick cell envelope. Men begin to raise slowly the temperature. Hugh Derry monitors the reaction of the sample, but nothing happens. The man decides to create the atmosphere of the era when life was born on Earth. He lowers oxygen and adds carbon dioxide, adds glucose. The specimen begins to move. Hugh pronounces that they observe the first conclusive proof of extraterrestrial life. Ekaterina Golovkina says that the sample is very small. It cannot be seen without a magnifying glass. She says that the ISS is the most expensive house ever built. She says that in a day they fly around the Earth 16 times. For 30 years, there were more than 100 people on the ship. The girl points the camera at David Jordan and says that he has been in space for 422 days. The schoolgirl on a video says that Martian will be called Calvin. Miranda North tells David Jordan that he's been on the ship too long and forgets to look after his health. The guy says he likes it here. He remembers the army going to Iraq and building a hospital there. Then they left, and when they returned, the whole village was destroyed. Miranda says that not everywhere on Earth is the same as in Iraq. The girl asks what the man misses. David says he likes the ISS hum. Ekaterina tells Hugh that his achievements with Calvin are magnificent. The man says he didn't think of being an astronaut, he just wanted out of the chair. Hugh is experimenting with Calvin. He notes that the cells of the specimen have started to merge into one and that they have common electrical activity. Miranda North says that they believe the new species are a large single organism consisting of many identical cells. Hugh compliments that here each cell can perform any function of the body alone. So each cell is both a muscle cell and a nerve cell and a photoreceptor cell. The creature as a whole is a muscle, a brain, and an eye. Hugh says that Calvin can interact with the environment using its antennae. Hugh sticks his hand into the glove and pulls his finger to Calvin. The creature starts reaching for the finger. Sho Murakami talks via video link with his wife. The woman gives birth. Sho comes to the guys and shows them his daughter. The guys joke and congratulate him. Hugh spends time with Calvin playing with him. Suddenly, the alarm goes off in the lab. Hugh says he didn't check the protection and pleads his guilty. Miranda chastises the man and says he must check 3 times. Rory tells Hugh that they have not yet understood what this creature is and the man is playing with it as a friend. Miranda says it's an uncontrollable experiment and everyone should be careful. Miranda reports that after several weeks of growth and activity, Calvin has become inactive. The team thinks it's because of a loose clamp in the lab that changed the air pressure in the creature's incubator. The guys think that this behavior of Calvin can be a defensive reaction. Miranda says the creature grew very quickly, but now it has strengthened the precautions. The incubator and the laboratory must be hermetic. Hugh tells Miranda that he has the idea to test the creature with an electric current. Miranda says she doesn't know how good this idea is because her job is to protect. Hugh pronounces that thanks to Calvin, they learn so much about another life. Hugh turns on the low voltage on the equipment and wants to start stimulating Calvin. The man says he wants to awaken the creature and test the conditions under which it will again interact with the environment. Hugh makes several discharges. On the third discharge, the creature jerks sharply and grabs Hugh's hand. Hugh tells the guys that he will try to get his hand out, and that Calvin is holding it very tight. Miranda tells Hugh to calm down. Hugh pronounces that the creature is between his fingers. He tries to divert the creature onto the shocker with the other hand, but this does not help. The creature begins to squeeze Hugh's hand even harder and breaks his fingers. The team starts arguing because the guys want to go inside, but Miranda does not allow for safety. The creature finally leaves Hugh's hand, and the man falls to the floor unconscious. Calvin tries to get through the glove to the outside. He takes a taser and with a sharp end makes a hole in the glove and leaves the flask. Calvin finds the rat, wraps it around with his body, and takes its life. Rory breaks into the lab and starts pulling Hugh out of the room. David helps to pull out a friend, but Calvin grabs Rory's leg and the guys close the door to the lab with Rory inside. Ekaterina tells Rory to try to burn the creature with oxygen candles. This helps and Calvin leaves the guy's leg. The guys decide to deprive Calvin of life. Rory opens the gas burner and directs it to the creature, but without success. The fuel in the burner is finished. Calvin attacks Rory from behind and climbs into his mouth. The creature tortures the guy from inside and Rory dies. The alarm goes off. Miranda tells the guys that the creature is trying to escape. Sho shuts down all the ventilation compartments, but Calvin manages to crawl into one of them. Miranda says the creature broke the second barrier. Ekaterina sends a distress signal and says that they have lost the location of the specimen and they consider it deadly dangerous, so the creature will be destroyed according to the quarantine protocol. Sho stops the girl and says that the connection is gone. He says that it is necessary to go into space to establish a connection with the Earth. Ekaterina wants to go into space. David tells Ekaterina that it is very dangerous and against the protocol. Miranda pronounces that the creature must not get to Earth and everything is stipulated in writing. Ekaterina goes into space and begins diagnostics of the communication transmitter. The girl says the unit is overheated and the coolant is gone. Sho says that Calvin can drink all the cooling fluid. At this point, Calvin comes out and clings to Ekaterina's suit. The creature is even bigger and tries to climb inside the suit. Calvin squeezes the girl's leg. Ekaterina begins to go to the lock, but notices the liquid in the helmet. She says there is no time to go around and detaches to jump to the lock. David meets the girl in the lock. Miranda warns the guy that the condition of Ekaterina is critical. She drowns. Ekaterina crawls to the hatch from the lock. David inside tells the girl to help him open the hatch. Ekaterina starts to turn the lever, but consciously in the other direction. Miranda tells David that the girl will not let Calvin get inside the ship. Ekaterina dies and flies off into space. David asks how the creature can get back to the ship. Sho answers that through engines and pipelines. The guy says that they can trace where exactly Calvin gets and close it. Calvin appears in sight. He jumps from engine to engine and the guys turn them on one by one. Sho says that the ship has fallen out of orbit, and if not stabilized, they will soon reach the atmosphere. Sho says that Calvin survives better than many organisms, and therefore cannot be allowed to enter the atmosphere. The team is tense, trying to find Calvin, but realizes that he got inside. Hugh says that if the creature is deprived of air, and they themselves are closed in a special compartment, depressurizing the entire station, it will not receive life support. Miranda with Hugh go east, while David and Sho all check and lock the modules. The boys understand that it will take 4 hours to pump out all the oxygen. The team can only wait. David says that he remembers the day the Challenger exploded and that it is hard to see people burn like fireworks. Hugh declares that Rory was his friend and that he is to blame for everything. Miranda says it doesn't matter and that taking the creature on board was a risk. Everyone knew it. Hugh says that it is a struggle for survival and that the very existence of life requires destruction. He says that Calvin does not hate humans, but will take the team's life for its own survival. Hugh loses consciousness and pulse. The team turns his heart on, but finds a Calvin on his leg who eats it. Calvin rises and starts chasing the guys as they leave the room. Miranda and David manage to leave. Sho closes in the capsule. Calvin looks at him through glass. Calvin crawls over the glass of the capsule. Miranda and David return to Hugh. Hugh asks the guys to lift him and dies. Sho looks at pictures of his baby in a capsule. Miranda pronounces that her feelings are not scientific or rational. The girl feels hatred for Calvin. Suddenly, she and David notice Calvin's signal on the screen. Apparently, the creature has swallowed one of the location markers. Miranda and David wait for Calvin to crawl back to Hugh and lock it indoors, deciding to deprive it of air. David sees through the window that another space station has arrived at their distress call. Miranda says that Calvin is there. David tries to connect to the arriving station, but is not heard or seen. The station clings to the ship. David tries to understand what the station is doing. Miranda says that they came not to rescue them. This is the third barrier. The first barrier was the incubator. The second, the laboratory. The third, the station. She says there's only 2 ways out. Keep it in check or drive it out. Miranda says that the station pushes them into deep space because they cannot allow the creature to get to Earth. It was Miranda's protocol. She says she insisted and everyone signed up. The defense barrier is the work of Miranda, and if it worked, they would have come home. But the team failed. Sho climbs out of the capsule and starts moving towards the station because he thinks there are rescuers, but is actually moving to Calvin. Miranda goes for Sho. Sho reaches the door and starts opening it. Calvin creeps up on the guy from behind. Depressurization occurs. Calvin and Sho are struggling, and Miranda and David are trying to pull the guy out. Calvin holds Sho by the leg and does not let go, begins to climb up the body. Sho knowingly lets go of Miranda's hand and flies out of the ship into the open door. Miranda sees Calvin crawling back. He and David crawl into the hatch and close the door. The station flies away and begins to destroy the ship. David says that the system is still working, but they lose life support. The temperature drops because of a hole. David says the tremors have slowed them down and they're not going into space. They're drawn to Earth. He says they will reach the atmosphere in 39 minutes. Miranda says they will burn up in the dense atmosphere, but Calvin may survive. Miranda says that she is already cold. She says that when she first saw a photograph from space, she asked her father where the borders are. David says that Calvin needs oxygen, which means it's easy to lure it into oxygen candles. He says they can use it as bait. There are 2 escape pods, and both are programmed to land. He says they'll get them back to Earth unless someone intercepts the controls from the inside. David says that he will lure Calvin into Capsule A, press the button, and turn on the manual control, change the trajectory, and not enter the atmosphere. Miranda will climb into Capsule B and fly to Earth. They argue who will fly to Earth. David says that his place is here. Miranda and David put on their spacesuits. David takes oxygen candles and goes to the capsule. He climbs into the capsule and Calvin comes to him. The guy closes the capsule door with the creature on board. Miranda climbs into the second capsule. David presses the button. Miranda records the speech in case of death and tells everything. David manually leads the capsule into space, but Calvin holds his hands. The capsule lands on the Earth. Man and boy open it. They are David and Calvin. Miranda flees off into space. I thought until the last minute that Calvin would never make it to Earth after all. What do you think after watching this movie? You can leave your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you in the next recaps.